Hi people, it's me Anja, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new Resilience video. The first book on this list is called Lost in the Neville Woods, written by Aiden Thomas. If you didn't know, this story is a YA contemporary fantasy retelling of Peter Pan, and it's written by the author of Cemetery Boys. And this book, Lost in the Neville Woods, was one of my most anticipated 2021 releases, and that's probably true for many other readers as well. So let's just get straight into this review. I really enjoyed this book. It was so well done. Aiden Thomas's writing is so good. They do such a great job crafting the world with these well-developed characters, with the romance. The plot was so thrilling and so intriguing, and I really enjoyed it. The story is not queer, by the way, but that's not really the point. The point is that this story is so good. As a person who has somewhat minimal knowledge of the original story of Peter Pan, I really had no idea where the story was going to go, and I think that Aiden Thomas did such a great job, like really digging deeper into the story. You know what I mean? Like, this book is so well done. I just really enjoyed it, and frankly, I would say that I enjoyed this book just as much as I enjoyed Cemetery Boys. So essentially, I rated both books 4.5 stars, and I highly recommend this book because it's definitely worth all the hype and so much more, and I'm so excited to see what Aiden Thomas will write next in the future, because I will gladly pick up anything that they write next, because this book was literally so good. So yeah, there's that. The next book on this list is called The Deepest Breath. This story is middle-grade contemporary and follows a young girl named Stevie who's reckoning with anxiety about many things that she doesn't quite understand. And one of those things is her feelings for her friend Chloe, which may feel like more than just friendship. This story was so good. Stevie's voice felt so realistic, and it really made Stevie a very well-developed, three-dimensional, distinct character. You know what I mean? And her sapphic representation, her questioning her sexuality, like that representation and that storyline just felt so nice, and it really made the story seem so wholesome and lovely and just so great. I just really enjoyed the story, and I ended up giving it 4 stars because the plot was so intriguing. Stevie's voice, like I said, and her characterization was so wonderful and so lovely. I just really enjoyed the story because it was done so well. This book is so underrated, and for what, and I just really enjoyed it. I just love reading about young sapphic people who are questioning their sexuality. You know what I mean? I just prefer personally reading about a character who's questioning their sexuality rather than a character whose sexuality is already established. Now, I will say both stories are very important and very timely. That's just my personal preference. But at any rate, this story was so good. It was so wonderful and lovely and just so wholesome and so cute and just so fluffy, and I really enjoyed it. And with that, I gave it 4 stars, and with that, I highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called The Many Mysteries of the Finkle Family. This story is written by the same author who wrote Get a Grip, Vivi Cohen, which I really enjoyed last year, so I had somewhat high expectations for this one. This book is middle-grade contemporary and follows a pair of autistic sisters and how they form a detective agency to solve the mysteries within their family. This book was well done. I really enjoyed the autistic representation. You love to see it. I also really enjoyed the Jewish representation. Again, you love to see it. The 2 characters were well developed and distinct, and I really enjoyed that, because sometimes with dual perspectives, sometimes the characters tend to blur together, you know what I mean? But in this story, they both stood by themselves, and I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed their sister relationship. However, with that said, I ended up giving the story 3.5 stars, and I just found myself preferring Get a Grip, Vivi Cohen, because I think this author does a better job with making you feel emotionally connected to the characters when there's one perspective instead of 2. You know what I mean? So with that, I do highly recommend this story because I thought it was well done, it was lovely, and it was fluffy, and it was so wonderful. I just prefer to Get a Grip, Vivi Cohen, and I will be reading more books by Sarah in the future, but I just think that her writing one perspective was better than writing 2. You know what I mean? So anyway, with that said, Like I said, I gave this book 3.5 stars. The next book on this list is called Fat Chance Charlie Vega. This story is YA contemporary. It was absolutely so good. It follows Charlie Vega, who's a plus-size brown girl, and she's struggling with body confidence. And when a guy finally asks her out, she's initially over the moon, until she discovers that the guy who asked her out first asked out her best friend. So she's afraid that she'll always feel like the second choice. You know what I mean? Essentially, the story was so good. I was kind of afraid that it wouldn't live up to its hype, but it absolutely did. The story is so good, and it deserves all of its hype and so much more. I really enjoyed the plus-size representation. We love to see it. The romance was so cute, and it was so fluffy, and it was so lovely and wonderful, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I absolutely fell in love with this story, and I was over the moon with like everything that happened in it. You know what I mean? Like, the discussions talked about in the story was so well done, and I really enjoyed it. Like, every single element of the story was so good, and I definitely agree with the buzz surrounding the story, and I would definitely add to the hype because this book is so good. It's absolutely so good. The romance, the characterization, the plot, the world building, and the setting, like every single element of the story is absolutely so good. It's so well developed and distinct and just so wonderful. And with that, I ended up giving the story 4.5 stars. So with that, I highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Night Swimming. This story is YA contemporary and follows a young girl who doesn't want to leave the small town that she grew up in because she's worried about leaving her family until two things start to happen in her town, one of which is a new girl that comes into town that changes everything. This story was well done and it was solid. Like, it was a short, sweet YA contemporary. I ended up giving it 3 stars because I enjoyed it. The writing and the world building like hooked me in immediately. I really enjoyed that aspect. And I enjoyed the characterization, and I really enjoyed the sapphic romance. Like, we love to see it. But what I didn't really like completely fall in love with was like everything else. I felt like this story felt a little bit too short for me, and with that, like, the story is not going to be super memorable, and that's why I can't give it like a higher rating. You know what I mean? Like, everything felt very well developed and very like nuanced, if that makes any sense, but it's not like super distinct. I don't know if that makes any sense, but essentially I didn't love this book. I just simply liked it. So with that, I gave it 3 stars, and I don't really highly recommend it, much less really recommend it. So yeah, there's that. So in conclusion, my favorite books on this list were definitely Lost the Neville and Fat Chance Charlie Vega. My least favorite book on this list was definitely Night Swimming, since that's the only one that I wouldn't really actually like recommend. You know what I mean? But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the ice cream emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!